is pretty great.
Speaking of can't help but smile, look at those two great faces. As you do see Tord Reklev against Henry Brand, you see Dragapult VMAX against Dragapult VMAX, and you see a key little difference there in Henry's deck, as he does play a 1-1 Malamar line to kind of allow him to keep bringing these Dragapults back. I'm not sure how important that is in this matchup, but at the same time, you do see how there is a difference in philosophy in the deck building aspect between these two players, despite playing Dragapult VMAX.
Yeah, Tord went with this really consistent approach, as he always does, and Henry loves spice and decides to throw it in. So really curious to see how those little differences start to add up.
And I know that Tord Reklev is a man that needs no introduction to the Pokemon community, but at the same time, let's take a look at Tord's accomplishments.
Yeah, Tord, obviously, 3-time international champion, so you gotta flex those whenever you can. And also, he's very proud of his Worlds accomplishment that he had with his top 4 performance. It's one of the first times that he had a really breakout performance at the World stage. He'd been dying to do so, and he finally had that opportunity. Not gonna have that opportunity this year, so the kickoff means so much to him.
You're absolutely right. You do know that Tord absolutely values the World Championship above all else, and having that top 4 finish is a great accomplishment. His opponent, though, Henry Brand, has one-upped him in that aspect, as he was the 2019 World Champion, as well as having just a stellar season all the way around in 2019.
Yeah, arguably, I don't think there's anyone who's hotter right now than Henry Brand. He's been winning everything that he touches, if not performing extremely well in them, and he does it with his own special variety, which is just something that we don't really see anymore. So very cool to see once again here at the stage.
And the thing about Henry Brand is not only is he a newer player, but he also represents a region that's usually pretty underrepresented. So for him to come out of this this region down in the Australian area, and for him to perform so well is just, it's a feat that many fans around the world are definitely, proud of, and it's just fantastic to see him represent his area at the highest possible level. The thing is, he's now playing against. I'm not sure how that's going to go. I guess there's only one thing left to do but find out.
Yeah, let's get into the game and see how these two players go at it.
And we do see Henry Brand against Tord Reklev. Tord Reklev on the bottom of your screen. Henry Brand, of course, on top. It's going to be Dragapult against Dragapult, and that's going to mean there's going to be a lot of spread, a lot of damage counters at it everywhere, and you're just going to have to see if one of these players is going to be able to kind of out-tempo the other, or if one of these players is just going to just flat out get overrun by the damage counters.
Yeah, this is what we've really been waiting for. I'm honestly really interested to see if the consistency of Tord starts to show how important it is in this opening turn compared to how Henry's opening turn will go.
That is absolutely something to take note of, as if there's one thing that Tord does is play a consistent deck list. You have
my gosh, wait.
Perfect.
And he's trying to be alone Meowth.
Yeah. Could have set that up any better. What that means is just like, if you see Henry Brand plays these cards that you usually don't expect out of somebody like Tord. Tord goes for a more consistent, no bells and whistles kind of deck list. Meanwhile, his opponent Henry Brand is playing a Alolan Meowth, which is just huge. It's great against Dragapult V when you go second.
Yeah, which is not happening this time around, and it makes me. I didn't see the coin flips, but maybe Tord passed the turnover dibs. You know what? You go first.
Yeah, but it is Henry going first in this game, which is really bad for that Alolan Meowth. It could have been just such a devastating turn, but the truth is that it's still going to be a pretty nice hand here for Henry. You see a quick ball already, and definitely not the Pokemon you want to be starting with. Of course, you'd love to start with Jirachi in this situation, but you are still able to find your Dragapult V.
Yeah, I don't know if the rest of the hand is too great. Honestly, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but the importance of finding that opening energy is huge, and we don't see that yet. He will have to go hunting on the Cynthia, right?
Yeah, having that Cynthia just means 6 brand new cards added to your hand.
If he wasn't going first.
Yeah, on the following turn, which you're absolutely right. Not having access to Jirachi to Stellar Wish for potentially something like an Energy Spinner, or again, in this particular spot, not having access to a supporter because you went first does mean you don't get to attach the first energy of the game. And that is the biggest advantage that you can have going first in this mirror match. Now, Tord Reklev does start his own first turn of the game, very fortunate to start to go second in this particular situation, and that's about as fortunate as that part gets, because it seems like he's just going with a bite. He does obviously have several cards that he can play. He has a couple of quick balls and an acro bite, but just chooses to play this slowly.
Yeah, when you see your opponent doesn't start with an energy, then you know that you're going to have plenty of time to get things rolling. He's not really threatened right now by a Dragapult or Dragapult VMAX. And also, we saw an interesting play where Tor decided to play that basic Psychic Energy, and that's him playing around Giratina. He doesn't want that energy being removed at any point.
And now Dragapult VMAX is going to be shredding against Dragapult V, and that is going to be the end of Henry's second turn.
Look at that hand. He really has nothing going for him right now. I don't even know what he's going to do next turn. Do you retreat and try to use Jirachi? Do you just sit here and continually attack for 60? I don't know if that's a winning line.
Yeah, you are right that his hand is just awful, right? It doesn't have anything to really work around. All he really has is a reset stamp that can help him in the future of the game. Right now, he's facing down 130 damage and has no way to attack. There's that Psychic Energy, though.
Oh, yeah, that's huge. That's going to keep him in right now. Obviously, a lot of damage counters are going to be compiling over the course of these turns. This is one of the mirror matchups where you aren't going to see those big swing knockouts in one turn out of nowhere. Both these players really have to work to take prizes.
If you look at the way the damage trades off, though, that Dragapult VMAX is about to get knocked out is towards. So that is a pretty big advantage for Henry. Being able to shred on the second turn did allow him to set up a knockout against that Dragapult VMAX before the Dragapult VMAX and knock him out. That's about the only thing going for him, though, as now Tord does start to play the cards that he has he's been saving up in his hand. That quick ball going to find him another Dragapult V, potentially start setting up a second attacker. This is kind of where Tord wants to be, and this is definitely not where Henry wants to be.
Right, and we see that Tord, the only energy he has available right now is the Horror Psychic Energy, which isn't his favorite energy to play, but honestly, you might just go ahead and slap it down now. It looks like he wants to hold on to the Acrobike too. Maybe he's just waiting to see, and what am I really going to need? Maybe next turn I'm really going to need a reset stamp to close this game out once Henry takes all these prize cards. I'm just going to wait and pick that resource later.
Yeah, just a really conservative line by Tord. And you can just see that there's a lot of strategy behind these plays that are being made, despite being unconventional. You see that Tord has only played cards that he absolutely needs to whenever he needs to. He is not filling up his bench until he absolutely needs to play it. He knows the damage output limit for the Dragapult VMAX. He knows there was no risk of him getting knocked out last turn. On this particular turn, he knows that he's about to get knocked out, so that's when you finally play your Dragapult V. You do not let your opponent maximize his Max Phantoms.
This is actually pretty scary, too. I think he might choose to retreat because in a situation like this, if you only play one Pokemon, there's a pretty high chance that you could get a double knockout here on the following turn returned just with some Zigzagoon. So he's going to have to play multiple Pokemon if he's taking the knockout here.
Yeah, I don't know how much I would like retreating. I don't think that that's ever going to be a line that wins you the game, because your opponent could just boss's orders you and kind of just take you right out of the game.
I don't think retreating's the right call, but if you only play one Pokemon, I think that's where he was going.
Absolutely. And there is that Max Phantom. There is that knockout. And now there's 50 damage on Dragapult V on the bench. So all these things are starting to look pretty reasonable for Henry as long as he can draw out of this mess that he's in. But it looks like he still hasn't been able to.
Yeah, he really didn't find anything that he wants here. Tord, on the other hand, does have multiple energy. He's going to see what's going on with the Acrobate. He does find the reset stamp. So if he thinks that Henry could have finally found something off the prize cards to get something going, obviously that's going to be one of the picks for him. Also doesn't want to discard that if he's going to go ahead and work through this hand here.
And there's that reset stamp, 3 new cards. And there's a Quick Ball as well as a Malamar. So those are some pretty great cards, especially if there's a Dedenne still in Henry's deck.
Yeah, we do see that Henry does play 1 Dedenne, so could find that later on for himself. We also saw that Henry did grab Power Plant out of the prize cards, but obviously no time to play that down, so Tord is going to have access to a Dedenne change of his own.
And there is that Dedenne you were just talking about. And there's that play. Dedenne comes down, brings 6 new cards after that Dedenne change, and There's that second energy on Dragapult V. No Dragapult VMAX, though. Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, I don't expect Tord to grab energy off the energy spinner. He's just looking through to see what his chances are of grabbing that VMAX, and he's going to go ahead and go for it right now. 7 cards to find the VMAX. If he does, he takes at least 3 prize cards, potentially 4 if he finds the Zigzagoon.
Look for the VMAX. There is a mysterious treasure and a Dragapult VMAX, so he does find it. And the Zigzagoon. Yeah, that is going to be very important there, as that's also going to mean an Inkay knockout.
Yeah, that's huge.
Because that could actually be Jirachi.
Yeah, I feel like the right play is to continue just take the Inkay off the board. It's the only opportunity that your opponent has to have a Max Phantom on the following turn. Even then, he actually doesn't have that option available, but he could be using Dragapult V's Jet Assault, and he doesn't really want to walk into that. So if you just limit the amount of energies that can come down, you're in a great spot.
And that is a big knockout, a huge return knockout for Tord Reklev, as Henry Brand loses his Dragapult VMAX. A pretty great 3-card hand for Henry, but that's going to need a lot of help. And more importantly, with no energy in play, and now your Inkay getting knocked out, you're going to be behind on energy, and your opponent's going to start really taking over this damage race.
Yeah, this is where the game starts to get a little scary. We're also going to see how Henry feels about the rest of his hand. Does he need to just go for? Yeah, he does have the Dedenne available to him, so he's going to need to find the Dedenne, and most likely he's going to have to find a reset stamp and maybe just slow his opponent down a little bit, put some pressure on, and if he can pressure down the Dragapult VMAX a little more, maybe even with Giratina to pull the energy off, you could get Tord on a spot where he doesn't have that energy to attack.
Now, what Henry ended up doing was he valued that energy attachment above the Stellar Wish, chose the Stellar Wish specifically so he could discard an additional card for that Quick Ball and be able to still attach that Horror energy before using the Dedenne change. That is going to mean a very passive end to this turn here for Henry, but more importantly, really what it means is he's just hoping that his opponent doesn't have something along the lines of like Boss's Orders. Those are the kind of cards that Henry's trying to dodge at this point, because that Dragapult V needs a little bit of time to become a threat.
Yeah, this is where the game starts to get pretty interesting, because you know that Henry is going to have to make the most of Scoop Up Net in situations like this. You can't give your opponent access to knocking out Jirachis so simply. And we see right off the Stellar Wish finds that reset stamp, so he is going to get to disrupt the hand here.
Yeah, that was a very nice find here by that Jirachi. Reset stamping your opponent down to a 2-card hand. Just what the doctor ordered. You want to avoid your opponent really taking it to your Dragapult V. Remember, both of these players are just one Dragapult V knockout away from winning. And here's the thing though, is Tord was just had 2 prizes. So the thing about Tord's situation is that he could actually just go through the 2 Jirachis and play. So I think that's something that Henry ended up realizing and chose to play around, actually kind of allowing his opponent to take the first hit on the Dragapult V, but is now hoping to set up I believe a 3-turn knockout with that Dragapult VMAX.
Yeah, real big whiff here for Henry. He didn't find the Giratina, so he's not going to be able to remove the Horror Psychic energy off of the board, and he was really hoping to just put Tord on a dead hand with only 1 energy available to him and just have a really weak performance with his VMAX. But instead, Tord is going to have both those energies. He's going to continue to push damage, and he's got some other targets available to him. Even if he pushes some damage onto Dedenne, he has a following Boss's Orders in hand to just knock out that Dedenne and win the match, or the game at least.
Yeah, it's really just that Boss's Orders that's exactly what Tord really needed. At this point, he can afford to go Max Phantom, cross his fingers that his opponent doesn't have something like a Giratina to Dimension Breach the energy away, or just draw an energy, and then that should secure the win. As a Shrine of Punishment is also pretty nice there. That means that Boss's Orders get
great too.
Away.
Yeah, he can go ahead and just put the damage on. He knows that there's no way that Dedenne's moved off of the board. Just put as much pressure on as you can, and you could knock this thing out on the bench at any time. So why not get the damage in now and disrupt your opponent a little bit too?
Now you force your opponent to have both a switch and an energy and a Dragapult VMAX in order to max Phantom you. That is a really solid play here by Tord and really puts, again, too much pressure on Henry. And it's such an uncomfortable position if you're Henry. You're just one turn behind.
Whoa! Okay. Well, he found the Giratina. So that is huge. We know that right now Tord is only sitting on a hand with a Jirachi in it. So if he was able to find a way to remove the stadium and buy himself a little more time so that his Dedenne doesn't get knocked out just by the end of turn damage from Shrine of Punishment, he actually does have a way to start coming back in this game.
A very nice Giratina there, just waiting in the wings. That's going to bring Tord down to a 1-card hand and 1 energy on that Dragapult VMAX. But then do you start attacking with that Dragapult VMAX that has 20 damage on it? Of course you try to. The thing is, there's a lot of top decks that are still available to Tord, but this is looking pretty good for Henry all of a sudden.
Yeah, honestly, now for Henry, all I want to see is him play every card possible and use that Cynthia, look for the power plant. If he finds that, then he honestly has a great chance of this Dedenne surviving enough turns for him to start, for Henry to start taking the match against that Dragapult VMAX that only has 1 energy.
And there's a retreat. Bring Jirachi right back. Stellar Wish with Jirachi. There's another boss's orders.
He's looking to see if there's any card that he can just play out right now, and I think the only one would be the Scoop Up Net. So he could use the Scoop Up Net, use the Switch, just play them awkwardly, who really cares, and then play your Cynthia and look for just give yourself 6 opportunities to find that card without adding any extra cards back into your deck.
There's that Scoop Up Net. Promotes Dragapult VMAX with 2 energy on it. And now finally the Cynthia.
Oh, he doesn't find it. That just means his Dedenne is going to be knocked out. And yeah, it looks like Henry understands how important that was. He needed to find that power plant. He's not going to find it. And that means that Tord Reklev is going to go up 1-0 at the start of this winner's round 2 game.
He had so many different looks at it, but just was never able to find that counter stadium. And all Tord has to do is just pass the turn. That's going to mean game over. And that game to Tord Reklev.
And just look at the hand. Tord only was going to have Jirachi and a skateboard on that following turn, so he really would have had nothing going. He could have attacked for 60, or he could have retreated to Jirachi and tried to find something. It would have been such a big spot for Henry if he was able to find the power plant. Instead, doesn't find it. He's going to have to find something here in game 2, potentially game 3 as well.
Discarded 1 power plant early on, and it ended up being a very crucial card towards the end of the game. But that was only game 1. Remember, Tord still has to win 1 more game in order to advance and defeat Henry Brand. Henry still has two victories to go if he wants to defeat Tord.
That's right. Now we'll see if Henry does ever get that opportunity to go second in this match and make use of that Alolan Meowth that he does have in his deck, and it seems like he's not going to get the chance once again.
Yeah, at least not in this game. He's going to have to take it to game 3 if he wants to hope to do that. And there's Jirachi Stellar Wishing right off the bat, finding potentially an escape board. Does indeed do that. Honestly, this hand is not bad. There's an energy. There's a quick ball. Plenty of things you want to see here on the first turn of the game if you're Henry Brand.
Yeah, this is a great start for Henry. He found everything that he wants. Now he just has to make the decision of, do I start benching Pokemon into this Dragapult? Because I know how quickly Pokemon just fall off the board in situations like this. But he does seem comfortable enough to play the Inkay Down.
Yeah, that was about the only Pokemon that Henry would have been willing to play down on this first turn of the game. But now it's Tord's first turn. Tord looking at an energy, has already a Dragapult V and a Dragapult V Max in hand. Basically, this is another very good start for Tord as well. Has his draw supporter available.
I don't think this is that great, honestly. His choices are Marnie for 5 and try to find a basic Psychic Energy, or research away your boss's orders. And he's going to have to go with the Marnie, it looks like, because you never want to play that horror Psychic Energy down, just because if you walk right into the Giratina, you're in so much trouble. You just lose so much tempo, and you can pretty much get wiped out of the game.
Okay, fair analysis. And that does mean Mysterious Treasure is going to find a Dragapult V, Dragapult V comes down, you can tell that there's just kind of like an internal struggle. Do you play the Dragapult V or do you play the energy or not? Chooses to play the energy on the benched Pokemon and then does indeed Marnie.
Yeah, he went with the safe approach. If you play that energy on the bench, then you know you are safe from Giratina, as it only goes after the active Pokemon. So he's just kind of just split it down the middle, said, all right, I don't want to play this energy, but if I am, I'm going to just start to load up a threat on the bench.
Yeah, just again, you can just tell that these are high-level plays despite them seeming so simple. There's just so many different things that you have to consider before you make the decision on whether you want to attach the energy in your hand or whether you want to kind of risk it and Marnie into a potentially basic psychic energy. In this case, Tord did choose to play that, and now it's on Dragapult V for Henry. Now that is skateboard on that Dragapult V, and having the Dragapult V Max already in hand, these may not be optimal starts, but you have your Dragapult V Max, and all you really need at this point is another energy.
Yeah, Henry seemed honestly pretty desperate to look for any way to get his hand moving to find that energy without playing Dedenne. He knows that it's just so big. If you give your opponent access to knocking out Dedenne, you never want to play it down, but you also can't miss out on energy attachments. So we are going to see him probably have to risk it here.
First Mysterious Treasures for Malamar. And now we may see a Quick Ball discarding the Mysterious Treasure to find that Dedenne. Seems almost inevitable that we will. And then you're going to want to see something like a Switch and a Psychic Energy of your Henry.
Yeah, potentially if he could find a way to get a Psychic Energy in the discard, that's available to him too. It looks like he did find the energy, but he doesn't have any way to switch out of the active spot, so he's going to miss out on spreading 180 damage here.
And that means that this will likely be the end of the turn here for Henry after he attaches his energy. Could choose to start. Yeah, and there is that second Dragapult now coming down. And that is the end of the turn here for Henry. No attack out of Henry. You got to be feeling pretty fortunate for your Tord.
That's a big miss. Now we look over at Tord's hand. Tord does have the Mysterious Treasure, so he will be able to find the Dragapult V Max. Now, I believe that Tord is not playing any natural switch in his deck, so he would have to find the escape board he plays 3 of if he wanted to get the attack off this turn with the Dragapult that will have 2 energies on it. If not, he could go with a different approach, maybe just attack for 60, set up the Giratina or the Jirachi for a knockout on a following turn. But you know that he wants to get the big damage on the board as fast as possible.
And there's an energy spinner finding 1 psychic energy. There's a few options available, but because you have no switch effect, it looks like you're just forced to evolve the active Dragapult and attach your first energy of the game to that one. And
do you target down Dedenne here, or do you start working on the Dragapult? Oh, he's going after the Malamar. Okay, I do like this too. Well, that answers the question from yesterday. Weakness does apply with Shred.
It's going after the Malamar to get the first knockout of the game here and slow any kind of offense out of Henry there. But it does come at a pretty big cost. Your Dragapult is now going to be the first one hit in this exchange, and right away you see Henry just go for it. Not many cards available to him to play. Just chooses to evolve into Dragapult VMAX in the bench, and now we see our first Max Phantom of the second game. That's 130 onto the active and 50 onto the benched one without you being able to attack first of your Tord. That's a lot of damage and a lot of pressure being applied by Henry.
Yeah, and honestly, I think we're just going to see a lot of the same here over from Tord now. He doesn't have much going on in his hand either. He does have access to the Giratina, so he can potentially remove an energy this turn if he so chooses. He knows that both players, they're both sitting on really low hands, so removing this energy could be pretty impactful. And he also removed the Malamar from play too, so if Henry doesn't have an energy here, that would be huge for Tord.
Yeah, you start to see how the combination of knocking out a Malamar and playing Giratina is putting pressure back on Henry, but the damage pressure has been put on Tord, and that's 130 now as a return from Tord onto the active Dragapult VMAX, and the damage spread onto the two set of Pokemon of Dedenne and Jirachi, and not going after the Dragapult VMAX on the bench. So Tord's game plan is, I'm going to take one knockout, and there's that power plant.
Oh no, that's good for Tord. He's been holding a Shrine of Punishment.
Exactly.
He's been waiting for this moment, and Henry just saw it off the top, decided, you know what, let's limit some options. I don't want to see a top deck Dedenne ruin this for me. And Tord said, good, I've been holding the Shrine of Punishment for 3 turns now.
You're absolutely right. And here's the thing is you see the two different game plans take effect here. Because Tord already knocked out a Malamar, Tord's game plan is I'm only going to have to go past one Dragapult VMAX. On the other hand, Henry is setting up 2 different knockouts onto these Dragapult VMAXs, and that's going to be how Henry's going to try to win this game. Tord's going to have to target down a couple of other Pokemon, or perhaps just a Dedenne on the bench. And because of that Shrine of Punishment, despite going down to a 0-card hand, he is able to start setting up this offense.
Yeah, it does look like, honestly, the next person to find an energy card is going to be in the best spot possible. Henry, if he's able to find an energy this turn, he'll actually likely find an energy when he takes his knockout. And you see Tord, he knows that he needs to find an energy of his own. He's actually just going to go a little off the beaten path, take the knockout on the Jirachi, and just try to find something so that his hand can get moving.
And now Henry does not find an energy. Finds a reset stamp, not what you want to see against the 1-card hand.
Yeah, this is huge, because if he did have the energy, you know that he's going to be able to continue to put on the pressure. Just 2 Max Phantoms on the bench Dragapult VMAX, and you know that you'll be clearing that out. And instead, we're going to see Tord be his Dragapult, and he's going to be able to take the knockout here with a Shred. So now it's going to be really up to Henry to find a second attacker, and the fact that his Malamar's gone means that it's going to take a while for him to get some relevant damage back up.
There is those 3 prizes taken by Henry, though, so that does bring a Cynthia onto Henry's hand.
And look at that,
there's a horror energy.
So he's going to be able to continue to put some damage in. He's actually very close to be able to set up a 5 prize knockout. If he had some like boss's orders and a Zigzagoon, he'd be able to just clear out the game right here. But instead, he's just going to contemplate: do I use this Scoop Up Net Tina? And I think he's going to come to realize that that's just not really worth it. If it does get brought up by its opponent, he can just use that Scoop Up Net at any other time.
And there's that return knockout from Tord Reklev, knocking out the opposing Dragapult VMAX. And now going down to a single prize remaining is Tord Reklev, bringing 3 cards from his prizes onto his hand. Unfortunately for him, honestly, those prizes are not helping. And there's that horror energy right into Henry's hand.
And Henry has the reset stamp, so he might think that this is a great opportunity to put Tord on an awful 1-card hand, but I think Tord would like that. He says, just give me a chance to find anything else, and I might be able to just take this game right now. Of course, Henry finding the Giratina right now is huge.
Yeah, and at the same time, the fact that Henry only has a horror energy means that he's going to have to play into that scoop-up net that Tord's been holding.
Well, we're going to see Giratina Scoop Up Net Giratina here, removing both energies off the board from Tord's side, and now he's got nothing going.
And there's that reset stamp. 1-card hand for Tord. Plays a Cynthia, does not choose to play an energy. Finds an energy spinner.
Henry knows he can take a ton of pressure off himself if he finds a power plant, but he doesn't find it. So once again, all the damage compiling on that Dedenne is looking scary as each passing turn hits.
There's 60 damage, 210 damage onto the Dragapult VMAX. There's only 110 hit points remaining. Galarian Zigzagoon in hand, as well as an Acrobite. There's a Quick Ball. Does Tord still have any left?
He does, and it looks like he's going to be able to get to go ahead and go for this. If he finds himself energy along with boss's orders, which we know he has 2 of because he put them on the bottom of his deck at the start of the game, if he finds both those cards, he just wins the game, knocking out Dedenne.
One of them is not enough. He is going to need boss's orders and an energy in order to seal this game up. There's the energy. No boss's orders.
Marnie.
Jirachi, though.
Yeah, he's so close, but just not there yet. He also knows that his Dragapult is potentially on the verge of being knocked out. So do you just hide at this point? Try to buy yourself some time so that Henry can't take this knockout.
Remember, it's Henry who must win this game in order to take this to game 3.
Tord, I honestly think he's just looking at hit points at this point. He just wants to find things that can absorb damage so that the damage can start to compile on the Dedenne on Henry's side of the board.
I mean, your opponent still has 3 prize cards remaining. You want to force them to take the 3 prize cards as difficultly as possible. You do not want to give them that 110 hit point Dragapult VMAX.
Yeah, this does seem wise. He's going to just go ahead and put everything down, use the Marnie. If he finds the boss's orders for the following turn, then he knows that he will have the knockout available. Doesn't find it yet. Acrobike looking, finds Scoop Up Net.
There's a reset stamp in hand, which he might use. Henry's got 3 prizes remaining and 4 cards in hand.
Yeah, we are going to see Tord just running off to that Jirachi. Does find boss's orders. Now he's just going to look and eye up the board and see if that is the right play for him. He also could be considering looking to use his Zigzagoons in combination with Scoop Up Net to put enough damage down. He was actually pretty close to having the game-winning damage there with a second Scoop Up Net. Instead, he's not going to have that option. So we will see him use the Zigzagoon in combination with Scoop Up Net. After the Shrine of Punishment damage comes into play, Dedenne has 10 hit points left, and that means that Henry needs to find Power Plant or he needs to win the game on his following turn.
That means there's a lot of pressure on a boss's orders out of Henry. That's a reset stamp, bringing Henry down to a 3-card hand, but Henry's hand was not going to be good enough before. It seems like it may not be good enough yet.
And once again, he's just in that same spot. He's got 1 Power Plant in his deck, and he needs to find it right now.
At this point, Henry has to thin his deck. There's still so many cards remaining. Is there even a power plant?
I don't even see it. He might have it in his prize cards.
I did not see a power plant in that deck.
Oh, no. And he knows that he has no way to bring this Dragapult V up. I think it's hitting him right now that he just has no way to win this game right now.
I don't see it either.
Eyeing up the Mew, considering, is there any way I can just put some extra damage in play? Knock out the Dedenne on the bench? No, I don't see it.
Game wins through that Shrine of Punishment. Is that what we're about to see?
Wow, and it is. Once again.
That does mean that is 2 games in a row won by Tord Reklev in the same fashion. That is the Shrine of Punishment, punishing that Dedenne GX and allowing Tord Reklev to take his final prize of the game at the end of the turn.
I mean, classic Tord fashion finds a way to win 2 games against the world champion without a game-ending attack.
That shows, one, the power of Shrine of Punishment, and that just shows how intricate this matchup really gets. This is a very difficult matchup to play out. You saw how in certain spots, these players just flat out kept all their cards in their hand. Tord in particular held an Acrobike for like 4 turns, choosing to keep a no bench whatsoever until he knew he absolutely needed to. And then the second game was a completely different story. So these players knew when it was time to switch the strategy up and when it was time to go with a more conservative approach. It was just a very interesting display of skill by both of these players, and it came down to the stadium battle, which Tord won both times.
Yeah, and we saw that Tord was holding on to that Shrine of Punishment for so long, waited until the power plant came down, and then he started to play the Shrine. He knows how important that was, and honestly, both players knew their outs. You saw Henry make some amazing plays trying to get back into the game. He knew exactly what he needed at the right time, just couldn't find it on almost 3 or 4 attempts in both games, honestly. So great job from both these players, and once again, Tord just showing how dominant he is in almost any tournament he joins.
And that means that we now have 1 player in the winners finals and 1 player right down to the elimination bracket, really in the losers bracket, where you have no more losses left to give. So in order for our current world champion to win